You know how we exactly know what there is in our medications, in our food, or for example in the beauty products that we use? Well, this is not the case of menstrual pads and tampons. There is no clear composition on the box of it. We women have been using these products for decades. And yet, as crazy as it may sound, few people dare to question this object. This is probably because the manufacturers have cleverly played on the taboo around menstruation to make us not want to know more. Said the director Audrey Gloaguen, who made an amazing documentary that speaks about the composition of our menstrual pads and tampons. What are our menstrual pads and tampons made of? The commercials make us believe that they're made of cotton, but this is not entirely true. It has been proven that there are endocrine disruptors, between 20 and 30 different toxic chemicals inside of 6 biggest companies that produce tampons, also carcinogenic substances and endocrine disruptors. Women that use tampons during their cycles use around 11,000 tampons during their menstrual lifetime. Yet we do not know what they're made of. There are still women dying every single year in France from toxic shock syndrome, a very harmful and life-threatening disease caused by bacteria that gets into our body and that releases very harmful toxins. Now, toxic shock syndrome is mainly caused by tampons. That is why the director Audrey conducted her own research in 2017. We had to wait for this year for someone to question what menstrual pads and tampons are made of. And it was an independent research. It was not even made by consumer protection services that exist in the European Union. Now, the whole story with the toxic shock syndrome started actually in 1983 in the United States because of the company that's called Rely. The company Rely used the synthetic fiber because it absorbed much better blood, and they said that women could leave the tampon inside of their bodies up to 5 days. Which women obviously did do because they thought they were allowed. There were around 100 women that died because of the consequences of the toxic shock syndrome, and there were many that had a lot of different health conditions. One of the main consequences was that women could not stay pregnant after they experienced this toxic shock syndrome. After everything happened, the company had to show the drops. This is where these drops on the pads come from and how absorbent they are. Now, the more absorbent they are, the more dangerous for your health they are, and the less time you need to leave them on your panties if it's pads, or inside of you if it's tampon. These babies, these ones, if they're very absorbent, you should leave them for a very, very short period of time. I honestly did not know this before watching this documentary. I had no idea, and that was one of the deals that Rely company had with the court system, and they had to educate women on it. Well, I was not educated enough. We thought that after these incidents in the United States, the toxic shock syndrome was completely over, but that is not true. There are still women dying, even in France, every single year from this disease. Do you remember the model Lauren Wasser? She lost both of her legs, and she advocated between the years 2012 and more or less 2017, speaking about this horrible disease. In her case, the doctors did not understand straight away what was going on with her body, what kind of an infection she had, and that is how and why she lost first one leg, and then the consequences were huge, and then eventually she lost her second leg. Now I'm going to try not to be mad when I speak about this subject and explain what actually happens in our body and what toxins there are in menstrual pads and tampons. Staphylococcus aureus is already inside of our bodies. It's estimated that between 20 and 30% of women have this bacteria inside of their bodies. So basically, when you put a tampon, it starts releasing toxins, and then those toxins get to that bacteria that starts multiplying in a very fast manner. It gets inside of the blood system, the immune system, and it causes a really high reaction and a very big infection. They conducted an independent research. They went to see few different labs, and they paid for them to see what is going on with 6 biggest brands that you can find in any supermarket here in France, and between 20 and 30 toxic chemicals were found in all of them, in all 6 of them. One of the main toxins inside of our tampons and pads is dioxin, that comes from the fact that we're bleaching our pads and tampons. Now, we need to understand that dioxin is one of the 10 most toxic substances forbidden by the European Union, and it was forbidden around 20 years ago. Research was conducted in 2017. Dioxin was still a part of our tampons and pads. Dioxin is very dangerous for our immunity system, for our endocrine system. It can cause cancer. It can be used in the European Union only under special permissions and certain conditions. Our vagina is not a special permission because our vaginas absorb everything that goes inside of it. Just think of certain medications that your pharmacist asks you if you would like to put them inside of your vagina or take them orally. The team of this documentary went to the United States, to Florida. There is a factory that produces cellulose that goes inside of pads and tampons all around the world. They use it because it's much more absorbent, so that's actually the part that absorbs blood inside of our pads and tampons. It's not cotton as we think. There's a small percentage of cotton, but there are a lot of other things. Cellulose that goes inside of it for the absorbent effect is brown, so they bleach it with chlorine dioxide. Chlorine dioxide or dioxide is the thing that bleaches cellulose, and that is the process in which the dioxin is created. So if you will, we do not put dioxin straight away inside of our pads and tampons. It's actually produced during the whole procedure. They tried to speak to people from the factory, but nobody wanted to speak to them. There was a study conducted in 1999, and it was discovered that there are 200 times more of dioxin inside of these objects that we use for our menstruation, more than permitted. Dioxin stays in our body's fat, so the body does not get rid of it very easily. After this study had been conducted in 1999, the factory said that they were no longer going to use the elemental chlorine for bleaching the cellulose. However, the documentary team also spoke to the whistleblower, who showed them official documents taken from the factory stating that they were still buying elemental chlorine in the periods between 2012 and 2015. She had the exact amount on the stock, the exact amount that they were buying, that they were using, etc. Another one found was phthalates. That is a substance that's used to soften the plastic that's inside of pads and tampons. This one can cause cancer and is also forbidden by the European Union. Now, what they discovered while they were conducting all of these surveys was that there was at the same time a certain research that was ongoing on Harvard University, and Harvard University was trying to find out why there were a lot of women that had miscarriages. They found a correlation between the quantity of phthalates during the menstruation and miscarriages. And they also showed that it's much more dangerous to be exposed to this toxin during your period than outside of your period. Your vagina absorbs even more. There were certain women inside of the European Parliament and a Dutch member of the European Parliament in 1999 demanded from the Parliament to demand from the companies to have the ingredient specifically shown on the boxes. And the shocking thing was that the Parliament refused. The European Parliament refused it. What they said was that every single brand of pads and tampons had to have the drops on them, and that was it. That was all. Now, after watching this documentary, of course, I wanted to find out straight away what happened after it, because it was released in 2017 and it was shown on one of the national channels here in France. So what next? Who did what after these shocking news? I didn't find a lot of things, but some of the things that I did find were some people saying that these toxins inside of tampons and pads were not dangerous enough. However, we saw the direct connection and correlation between one of the toxins during the menstruation that women get inside of their bodies during their period and miscarriages. That was proven on Harvard University. What else do we need? Dioxin and phthalates are forbidden by the European Union. I know that it's great that finally certain governments decided to give out free pads and tampons, because why should we buy them every single month? Our social security should cover for them. And I do praise Irish, Scottish government, New Zealand, French government that finally said that they were gonna give them to students that have menstruation, that they're gonna be free of charge. That's amazing, you know, that's a first excellent step. However, we are going to distribute toxins. Why not giving menstrual panties for free? It's much better for the environment. Why not reduce plastic waste by giving out washable cotton pads, for example? Please share this video. This topic is extremely important, and we all need to be aware of the fact that our pads and tampons that we most commonly find in supermarkets are made 90% out of plastic. It's very important for our health. It's important for us to understand that and be able to find different solutions and replacements for these. Until the next video, hopefully more positive than this one, be safe.